Welcome into another episode of Bobcat Breakdown. Tonight we will comb through the women's soccer team's first home MAC playoff win. We will also look ahead at the men's soccer playoffs, and Morey and Sierra will pick winners in our Game of the Week segment. You won't want to miss this. Bobcat Breakdown starts right now. Hello and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Bryan Schwartz alongside Sierra Goodwill and Morey Hershgordon. How's it going, guys?
Bryan, I'm doing great.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. The women's soccer team defeated Canisius 3-0 in the 4-5 matchup of the MAC quarterfinals. This was the first postseason victory for Quinnipiac since beating Monmouth in the 2000 Northeast Conference Championship game. Kelly Caruso, Al Pelletier, and Nadia Gill scored the Bobcats, and goalie Olivia Majszewski shut down the Golden Griffins with 3 saves. So, Morey, we'll start with you. Are you surprised by how Quinnipiac was able to dominate Canisius?
I don't think so, Bryan. I think Sierra would agree with me. Canisius was a middle-of-the-pack team in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference the entire season, and Quinnipiac started the season 5-2. Unfortunately, lost 2 games after a 5-game winning streak. Then they beat St. Peter's to end the regular season. So no, they beat Canisius 3-0 earlier on in the year. They were 8-0 at home, make it 9-0. They're one of only 2 teams ever in Quinnipiac history to finish undefeated at home. So I wasn't surprised. 3 goals, maybe, but definitely not by the win.
You mentioned 8-0 at home. Not only was this game at home, it was their first MAC playoff game at home ever, and their first postseason game at home besides the NCAA tournament game that they hosted back in 2000. But obviously the first playoff game at home for everyone on this team. I don't know if anyone on any team was walking on this field and beating Quinnipiac that day. Obviously they showed their offensive diversity, scoring off a free kick, and then Al Pelletier from the wing, a cross over the goalie's hands, and then Nadia Gill showed off all of her tactical skills, dribbling through defenders, went cross on the goalie. So obviously they showed their offensive diversity. Watching the game, it was just clear they were just so much more sound than this middle-of-the-pack Canisius team. So 3-0, I wasn't even surprised by the 3 goals. It could have been more by the way the game was going.
Bryan, another point to mention, Quinnipiac, yes, has one of the best offenses in the conference, so I do agree, maybe 3 goals, was that bar where, if Quinnipiac hit that, they were going to win regardless. Another thing is about their defense against Canisius. They had held the Golden Griffs 196 minutes scoreless heading into the matchup, and now, in the last 286 minutes, they've held the Golden Griffs scoreless, so I don't think it was even close. It wasn't a typical 4-5 matchup. Quinnipiac has top-tier talent, just unfortunately couldn't get it done in the regular season. That's why they were billed at 4th.
Yeah, truly an impressive win against Canisius. Quinnipiac plays Siena in the semifinals in the MAC tournament. Siena is the number 2 seed in the conference, and Sierra, we'll start with you this time. Will Quinnipiac be able to compete with them?
Will they be able to compete? Yes. I think, like I just mentioned, their offense is sound enough where they will create chances, but this team has not been able to finish chances against Siena since 2013. They haven't scored 1 goal against Siena since 2013. So you have players like Nadia Gill with 9 goals on the season. Obviously, she's a powerhouse, but Siena's defense has a .95 goals against average, second in the MAC. They can shut her down. And when you shut her down and say shut Jess Fontaine down, who else does this team have to step up and make these big-time goals in the playoffs when you need them most besides those 2 players? And I think Siena has the defensive core more so than Quinnipiac to shut them down. So I think they'll be able to compete, but finishing chances is going to be the biggest struggle for this team.
Bryan, while I do agree with Sierra in the fact that if you do shut down Gill and Fontaine, Quinnipiac offense kind of slows down a little bit, but the most important stat is that Quinnipiac has 15 different players with at least a point. They lead the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference in that category, which makes Quinnipiac an extremely lethal team on the offensive end. Anybody, like I just mentioned, 15 different players with a point. That means anybody on any given game can step up. I look at 2 key stats, guys. I see Quinnipiac 10-3 when it scores first. So as long as Quinnipiac has a hot start, there's a very good chance that they will pull out the win. 1-3-1 when the opponent scores first. And when you look at Siena, Siena lost 2 games in a row and then won 3 straight, outscoring its opponents 8-0 in the regular season. Then they lost to Canisius, the team that Quinnipiac beat in the quarterfinals, right before the end of the regular season. This is a team that is to travel from Central New York all the way to Central Jersey, coming off of a loss and hasn't played in over 9 days. Quinnipiac got the win at home. They're feeling good. They have a little bit of combination between experience and youth, and they will get it done come Friday night.
So you mentioned this huge depth that this team has, 15 players with points. Where were they when they got shut out by Siena 2-0 earlier this season?
Nadia Gill had a knee injury that affected her play, and Quinnipiac just did not come to play that game. They're on the road. Quinnipiac,
So that proves
not
my
a
point.
very good
So that proves
road
my
team.
point perfectly. Their defense can shut Nadia Gill down, and then when Nadia Gill wasn't her best, they couldn't score.
It's any given day in a college soccer game. Quinnipiac has the top 40 offense in the country. One player out of 11 will not make anything.
Listen, I'm not saying they can't compete. Do I think Quinnipiac will win? No.
Well, guys, this game against Siena is really going to be a tough game. And now our very own Andrew Badillo is in the Piazza with women's soccer freshman Allie Grunstein. Andrew?
Thanks a lot, guys. I'm sitting alongside Allie Grunstein of the Quinnipiac women's soccer team. Allie, how you doing?
I'm good.
So, Allie, you guys are traveling to Monmouth this Thursday. Friday, you have the game, the semifinal game against the Siena Saints. Just what's the mentality leading up to the game on Friday?
We're all very excited. We lost them last time, so we're really getting pumped up and making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure we win and we play again Sunday.
And so you guys are pumped. You guys are getting pumped up for the game. Over the 4 years that I've been here, I'm a senior. This women's soccer team hasn't made it this far. It's got to be exciting, even for the senior members on this team. It adds a different dynamic.
Yes, definitely. It's fun that as a freshman we get to do it for them, and that this is their last year and they get to go this far and make it this far, and they're really happy. So it makes us more pumped to do better.
What's the message from some of the seniors, like let's say Jess Fontaine?
She's really excited. She's never made it here in the past 4 years, so she's making sure that we're doing everything we can.
And for the freshman players like you, is there any added motivation to try to get it done for those senior players?
Yeah, definitely. I want to do well for them and make sure that we can get another win.
So just let's talk a little bit tactically, the game on Friday. What are some of the things you guys have been working on in practice preparing for Siena?
Last time we played them, they were working really hard on getting the ball through the middle of us. So today in practice, we were trying to shut them out and figuring out ways to make sure that they don't dribble up the middle. We'll stop them this time so they don't score on us.
And you were speaking, we were speaking a little bit off camera. You said you didn't play well against it. You guys had a bad game.
Yeah.
How are you guys going to ensure that those mistakes that you made in the 2-0 loss against Siena don't happen in this game?
Well, before the game, we weren't as pumped up as we usually are. So I think this time we're getting more pumped up earlier, and that we're going to try and do better and make sure that we're in the right mindset this time.
And I can't help mention, I follow your coach Dave Clark on Twitter. He puts out some pretty motivational tweets on Twitter, but we were speaking off camera. You said that most of the motivational speaking comes from assistant coach Steve Coxon. What does he tell you guys before games?
He's all about us having our own mantra and figuring out what gets us pumped before games and having our own ritual. So before the game in the conference room, we'll listen to the speech, I believe that we will win, and we'll all get really pumped up, and it's cool.
And do you have your own specific mantra that you follow?
No, I don't.
You don't? Are there any
No.
other superstitions that you have before games to get you know?
I wear the same headband.
You wear the same headband?
I try to.
Ever since high school or ever since you came to
Ever
Quinnipiac?
since I came here, I
Okay.
started to.
So, looking a little bit ahead, we don't really like to, obviously teams don't like to look ahead. They want to take it one game at a time. But you guys could potentially be facing Monmouth or Marist in the championship game if you guys were to beat Siena. Let's just discuss a little bit what both teams bring to the table. Let's start with Monmouth. You said off camera a little bit that you don't want to potentially face Monmouth in that championship game. What do they bring to the table?
Well, last game we had against them, they beat us in overtime, which was a really horrible feeling. And I believe that it's harder to beat a team twice. So if we do play them, I think we'll have a better advantage of doing better against them and maybe even winning.
And what about Marist? They're the 6th seed. They've been a little hot lately. They beat Ryder in the MAC quarterfinals last weekend. What do they bring to the table?
Well, when we played them, we beat them. So it would be cool playing them again. It'd be fun. It'd be a very tough game.
Who would you rather face?
Marist.
Marist?
Yeah.
Got to get past Siena first.
Yeah.
Back to you guys at the desk.
Coming up next, what made men's soccer coach Eric DaCosta so angry in the Bobcats matchup against Ryder? How important is home field advantage for Quinnipiac? Also, John Franklin joins us live in the Piazza to break down the game. Bobcat Breakdown rolls on after the break. Don't move a muscle.
The freshmen this year have stepped in and really just eliminated that problem, doing the right plays at the right time.
I mean, it certainly seems like an uphill battle for this team, but Tricia Fabi is one of the best coaches at this university.
Bobcats hosting Arizona State. We'll start with this power play.
But she's strong. Good Lord, I saw her lifting one time. She could squat 3 of me. Like,
Oh, well, 7 of me then.
This week's trending topic is #that. We are your source for Quinnipiac entertainment news.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. The Quinnipiac men's soccer team lost to Ryder 3-1. That loss snapped the Bobcats' 7-game win streak. Rashawn Daly tallied the lone Quinnipiac goal 9 minutes into the game. There were 3 red cards given to Quinnipiac throughout the game, leading to Eric DaCosta's dissatisfaction with the officials. Now, Sierra, you can start for this one. Were any of the 3 red cards justified?
So first, I'm just going to go through the 3 red cards and tell you what I think. The first one was on Connor McCoy, the defenseman. Was that red card justified? Absolutely, because the ref had talked to him multiple times for his unsportsmanlike conduct, his hard hits that were questionable. Yes, so I think that one was justified. And then next, minutes later, Felosmar Cordero, was his justified? I don't think so at all. No one knew at first why he got the red card. Everyone on the sideline, you could see it from Quinnipiac's players and coaches were just kind of completely dumbfounded, and then the ref finally told them it was because of language. It's the heat of the moment. Everyone's kind of saying whatever comes to their mind first. You hear it all the time from players shouting swear words. It's just kind of what happens when you're so passionate about a game. So no, I don't think that one was justified. And then the last one, Evan Hughes, the kid barely plays, honestly, and he just comes in. It was the first play he really was involved in. The ref didn't even give him a chance, didn't even speak to him once about his actions, and gives him a red card. So no, I think one of the 3 red cards was justified. They're losing a ton by those 1-game suspensions. McCoy has the 3rd highest minutes on the team with 13:25 behind the goalie, and Yare, that's a significant amount of minutes that DaCosta has to replace from his bench. He has to kind of pick up any kind of players that he can to fill those minutes. There's not just one player that's going to be able to replace all those minutes. And then Cordero is so fast and skilled, and it's another loss on the midfield with Doig out. So the midfield's really hurting. So I think that those three red cards were not only not justified, but really detrimental.
All right, now I got some time to talk. All right, so first, Connor McCoy, I agree, was justified. I had been talking to the ref 4 or 5 times throughout the entire game. He deserved the red card. He had a yellow card prior to the red card, so that was his 2nd yellow of the day. Felosmar Cordero, I do think it is justified. You're a junior. You're in a game where you know you have 2 injuries to your midfield. You are a midfielder. You know Doig is probably not going to be back for what could be the rest of the season. You know you have a crucial game against Fairfield coming up if the score remains what it was at the time, 2-1. So you just can't say anything to the referee. You got to be smarter. If it's a freshman, I understand, but as a junior, he's got to know better than to mouth off. And clearly, he knew something was a matter because he sprinted right off that field when he said it. So he knew that he said something that probably the ref wasn't going to like. And then with the 3rd one, Evan Hughes, no, I don't think it's justified. I think it's completely fine. The sad part is that he is a freshman and he's going to play a crucial role in a year or in 2 years. And in fact, he would have played a crucial role against Fairfield on Wednesday night. But now that he's gone, he can't play. So I definitely think 2 out of the 3 were justified. Quinnipiac also is a team, on a side note, they whine a lot about cards. They whine a lot about fouls. And, some of the Rider bench, some of the Rider coaches were, complaining about it. It does get a little out of hand every little, touch, every little something, they're falling on the ground, they're holding their ankle. I get it. That's
Quinnipiac
soccer.
hasn't had a red card all year.
That's the act. Yes, they haven't had a red card all year, but they're playing against Rider, who is a top 20 team in the country just a few weeks prior. They're the defending MAC champion. They have one of the best players in the conference. New Jersey is a great state for soccer, so they wanted to bring the game, a little more physical. That's how Quinnipiac likes to play. Eric DaCosta is a very defensive-minded coach. So I do think, though, 2 are justified, and Evan Hughes, unfortunately, is going to be gone. And
The one note about Filosmar, you said it was justified. We don't know that what he said was to the ref. And you said if you can't mouth off to the ref.
He
we
ran
don't know.
off the field right
But he
away.
ran off the field clutching his head like it was the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard.
You know what? If you don't want foul language in college sports, then go play chess, yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, Morey,
saying
you
I do
talked about Rider.
I'm saying he shouldn't have gotten kicked out. I'm saying I do want it. It's fine.
All right, let's move on. You talked about Rider being one of the top teams. They're the defending MAC champions. Do you see this as a potential MAC title game? Morey, you can start.
Me? No, it's really hard to tell in men's soccer whether or not 2 teams are going to get there. Eric Klinowski is 36, 13, and 15. That's the Monmouth goaltender when he plays in games. So he just came off an injury. He's back for Monmouth. They got a big-time win in their final regular season game to be 5-5 in conference. It's the first time since 2004 that McCourt's Monmouth Hawks are under 500 for the season, but Klinowski's back in net. David Nigro is one of the best offensive players. I think Monmouth has a shot to get to the title game. I also like Rider. They didn't have captain Christian Flath, who is one of the best players to ever play at Rider. In my estimation, one of the best players in the conference, had over 20 points a season in his freshman through junior seasons. It is his senior year when he comes back. I think Rider and Monmouth are the top 2 dogs.
I do agree with you that it's going to be a little bit tough for Quinnipiac to get there, just because the loss of Doig, and obviously they're not losing him off the field, but on the field. And also, if Quinnipiac, if they want it to be a preview of the title game, Eamon Whalen has to learn how to score, not at home. He has to learn how to score on the road. 8 of his 10 goals this season have been at the QU soccer field. So if him and Rashawn Dolly has actually been really picking up the pace with the scoring recently. So if him and Eamon can really work together, then yes, I do think it can be a preview of the MAC title game. Rider, I do see them getting there. They look dominant regardless of the man-up situation that they faced during the game with Quinnipiac. Jose Aguinaga is obviously a huge force for that Rider team that I think he'll continue his offensive spurts going throughout the playoffs. I don't think they'll have too much trouble getting to the title game, but I think if Quinnipiac can continue their communication between the midfield and offense, and scoring is really going to be the biggest issue for this team, then yeah, I think it can be a preview.
Sierra, you said how Quinnipiac's Eamon Whalen is one of the top scorers at home. So do you think home field advantage matters for Quinnipiac?
So after the Rider game, Eric DaCosta said, no, it doesn't matter for his team, but I kind of beg to differ on that one because, like I just said, 8 out of 10 goals for Whalen is scored on the QU soccer field. And this is going to be the last time any of the players, if they get home field advantage, if they win, it will be the last time any of these players will get to play on this field, especially for the seniors. It's an emotional aspect that just pushes them more. Home field advantage matters through and through with sports, no matter what sport. You can't tell me that it doesn't.
The last time Quinnipiac was on this field, though, in the playoffs, they lost to the 6th seed Fairfield, in-state rival. So Quinnipiac just 3-2 at home this year, 4-0 on the road. If they beat Fairfield, they're going to finish the conference slate undefeated on the road. So I definitely think it doesn't matter where this team plays. It has to get back to its roots. And DaCosta, like I mentioned before, played here. He played defense. He is defensive oriented. We look at the last 3 winners of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference to get automatic berths into the NCAA tournament. Rider, great defensively last season. Monmouth, tremendous defensively in 2014. And in 2013, Quinnipiac with Borjan Goita and a stout back 4 led Quinnipiac to the championship there. So it's all about defense, just getting into overtime, getting to penalty kicks, and relying on your goalie.
All right, guys. Now we'll send it out to the Piazza where John Franklin is standing by at the touchscreen with his analysis of the 3-1 loss to Ryder. John?
Thanks, guys. We're going to take a look at some recent plays from the Quinnipiac versus Ryder game. The first one we're going to take a look at is a cycle play through the midfield. Here the ball, you're going to catch the latter part of the play here. The ball cycled its way through the midfield, found its way to the outside to where Rashawn Daly here. We're going to take a look at the play. Rashawn Daly, he's down at the bottom of the play here. He's running down, comes to the goal line, and he's going to get a lucky bounce on a starting pass. Now we're going to run this one back. The big part of this play is that what Daly is looking for as a forward when the ball comes through the end of a cycle to work its way towards where a forward should have a cross. Daly does a good job here. He looks for the ball in the middle here. We're going to run it back. He looks to play a ball into the middle to the streaking player right here and just happens to get a lucky bounce off the back heel of a Ryder player. It results in a goal, not necessarily how Daly would have wanted the ball to go in, but he did a great job getting the ball, getting it down low, and then making a nice play to the middle. Now, the second play we're going to look at, it really harps on the red card situation that the team went through this weekend. We're going to see here Yeppe Yare, the defender. He makes a nice play. The freshman comes up, makes a nice play, gets on a 50-50 ball in the midfield area. We're going to run it back and look at that one. Right in the midfield area, and then he gets an unlucky bounce that goes to a Ryder player, and because they're down 3 men, bang, look at this. You have 4 Ryder forwards in front of 3 Quinnipiac defensemen, and that all happens because of the result of the fact that they're playing 3 men down at this point, Quinnipiac, and a defender comes up to make a play in the midfield. He makes a nice step on the ball, just gets an unlucky bounce, and it results in what ends up being a Ryder offensive attack. Look at this. Now, Yare, because he's so gassed from being on the field for so long, he can't get back. That's a Ryder goal, and that gets the job done. We're going to take a look at one more play here. Here's a ball set into the box. Chris Yakovides does a good job getting off his line on this one, but just can't get his hands on it. Ball goes in the back of the net. That's a goal for Ryder, and they win this one 3-1. Loss for Quinnipiac, but red cards were the story of this one, as you could see in the last one. Guys, we'll send it back to you at the desk.
Thanks, John. Great insight as always. It's time to take a break. Coming up, should the rugby game against American International have been that close? And Sierra and Morey will make their picks for the big matchups coming up this week. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike's sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q-Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. The rugby team bounced back from their first loss of the year to defeat American International College 38-34 on Senior Day. The Bobcats honored their 7 seniors on the roster. And how much of an impact have the seniors had on this team? Morey, you can start.
I think they've had a tremendous impact, specifically Maggie Miles. She's been a rock, Brian, for the Quinnipiac University women's rugby team. Becky Carlson has relied on her every single season, year in and year out. Her dad and her brother played big-time rugby, so she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience that not only she uses to her advantage on the field, but she also can tell that to her teammates so that they can use that same advantage.
Yes, Maggie Miles is definitely a huge senior that this team is losing, but I think one thing to note about all the seniors on this team is the way they set the tone and the culture for this team. That's something that they're going to lose. If you look at some freshmen that come on this team, have never played rugby before, and are dominant, that's not just luck. That comes from teaching and coaching, not just from Becky Carlson and the coaching staff. That's in-team, within the team, help from obviously the senior leaders, and so I think that really, besides the Maggie Miles aspect of her consistently being on the scoreboard, the seniors will be missed in the way that they set the tone for this team.
Both Maggie Miles and Haley Wyatt were All-Americans. Like I said before, it was only a 4-point win. Should the game have been that close? Sierra, you can start.
No, it shouldn't have, in my opinion, and I think Becky Carlson would agree with me. After the game, she said that there was complacency in her team that she had never seen before this season. The game before, Quinnipiac beat Castleton 213-0. It's odd for people who watch this team to go from a 213-point win to that close of a game. And yes, people might say we're holding them to such a high standard. Isn't this team allowed to have off days? They're putting themselves at that standard. They set the bar for themselves, and now we're just holding them to it.
I think it was a coach's dream. You know, anytime you can get a win is great. Can we just stop? This team will win another national championship. Unless it's Central Washington, I will put any amount of Skittles on this team to win any single game. So let's just relax. They were at home for the first time. Let them be at Quinnipiac. Let them, enjoy the Connecticut breeze. I know they played in Southington because they don't have a home field, but let them enjoy it. Let them enjoy their fans. They got the win. Let's get off their backs. But what I don't like about this game is that, like you said, they were complacent towards the end of the game. But the coach's dream is they played great at the beginning, they slide at the end, they still get the win, which is the result that everybody wants. And then in practice, you can say, hey, look, we got to play like we played in the first half and use the second half as a reason to kick this team in the rear ends and get them ready for the next game. So I think you use that as motivation the second half, and you use the first half as proof in the pudding to say, hey, we can do this. We just can't have the second half like we have. We're going to win another national championship.
Well, they did get the win no matter what. It's now time for Game of the Week. This week it'll be a bit different. We're going to go through 4 of the biggest matchups this week for the Bobcats. Sierra and Morey will write their winning teams on their whiteboards. Hold it up and explain. Are you guys ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, let's get it started. The Quinnipiac women's hockey faces off against Clarkson on Friday. Clarkson comes in at 6-3-1 overall and 2-0 in conference play, while the Bobcats are 7-2-1 overall and 2-0 in the ECAC. Who wins? Morey, you ready? Let's go.
It's quick.
We have a little difference here. Morey, you can start. 3-1.
3-1. I think the offense finally breaks through. 1 goal in 2 games against Boston College, a team also ranked in the top 10, much like Quinnipiac. The offense finally started to get a little bit better in the Yale and Brown series, but those were against 2 teams that are really in the bottom. They're garbage teams in the ECAC. So they play Clarkson, who's a top team. Hopefully that offense shines through. Woods, Samaskevich, and Cianfrano all get a goal and they win 3-1.
I think that Clarkson will win this game, and I think it's because they shut out Harvard 4-0 already this season. This early in the season, they were able to have that dominant of a win so early on. Proves that they didn't get hurt from the loss of Kaylee Mercer, a leading scorer last year. Shea Tiley's still in net, a dominant goaltender in the ECAC. And hey, it's better to lose to the best team now than it is in the ECAC playoffs.
Didn't Harvard lose its goaltender, though?
Both of these teams have had a really good start to their season, so Friday should be interesting. In the next feature game, the men's soccer team takes on the Fairfield Stags in a game with huge postseason implications. Who takes this one? Sierra's got Quinnipiac, and Morey's got Fairfield. Sierra, you can start.
Quinnipiac is going to be playing with a fire under them. Obviously, so unpleased with how the Rider game went. 3 players with red cards, losing 2 huge pieces. Fairfield's 0-5 in its last conference games. Hughes never lost to Fairfield. I don't see this being the first time.
It's not that I don't think Quinnipiac can't win, because I do think they can win. I just think the in-state rivalry, Fairfield and Angus Hastings just got clipped from the playoffs, so they have nothing to play for other than play spoiler. I think the Stags want to go out on top, and Quinnipiac just doesn't have enough depth. The 5 guys right off the bench for Quinnipiac I'm looking at, they've started only a handful of games, so they don't have the experience off the bench, and that's what you need.
Right, it's going to be tough.
Soccer.
It'll be tough without Doig and the rest of the players who were taken out with the red card in the last game. Coming off a 3-0 win over Canisius, the Quinnipiac women's soccer team takes on Siena in the MAC semifinals. Will the Bobcats reach the MAC championship? Yes or no? So it's Quinnipiac or Siena?
I think we all know my answer on this when I said it earlier in the show. Quinnipiac hasn't beaten Siena since 2007. I think they honestly would have been better off with Monmouth just because they prepare and compete so well with Monmouth, even if it doesn't always result in a W, but it did last year on Senior Day. They haven't beaten Siena since 2007. They always overlook them, and I really don't think that that will change on Friday night.
Quinnipiac scored in 3 different ways, off of a free kick, on a breakaway, and in transition. I also look at Siena. It's always rust versus rest when you come off of that big of a layoff. So I definitely see the Saints more rust. Quinnipiac hot start. They win 2-1.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. Be sure to check out our website, Q30television.com and theqbsn.com, and follow us on Twitter at Q30sports and at QBSN. For our entire production staff, everyone behind the scenes, Sierra Goodwill, Morey Hershgordon, I'm Bryan Schwartz. Thank you for tuning in tonight.